Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to talk to you today about making the most of interactive touch technology at events. So I'll start off by just giving you a little bit of an introduction as to who we are and what we do. So we've been around for over 20 years, about 26 years, and we started off as an AV company. So we used to provide pretty much just screens into the event industry, and about 10 years ago we created the content side of the business, and from the content side of the business we've now started producing all sorts of digital interactives. We're going to try something a little bit experimental here today as well, because we're going to cut to a live stream of our actual stand so that some of our guys can talk you through what we've got on the stand there. So I'll be working a little bit with live. If that doesn't work, I've got some videos to show you, but I'm sure it will. I've been assured. So yeah, 10 years of building content. In that time, we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work in the event space. And that's what I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about today. So 600, that's roughly how many interactive apps we make per year at DBpixelhouse. So we work with agencies and we work with brands to produce touch apps. Sometimes we'll do one event that's got 10 touch apps, sometimes we'll produce one touch app that is used over a longer period or a permanent install. So how we work, this for us is how we started the business. We started making bespoke apps and bespoke videos, and we've kind of maintained that theme throughout. So for the last 10 years we've been taking briefs from clients or getting involved with clients at a very early stage, trying to understand what it is that they want to do, what they want to communicate, and then turning that into a touch app. So historically a lot of our clients have used things like brochures, PDFs, documents to talk to people and try and generate interest at their event. What we're now doing is we're taking these briefs, we're taking this information, and we're then creating a bespoke app off the back of that. So we can get involved at a very early stage with that. Sometimes we get drafted in last minute. We obviously prefer to be involved at an early stage, but it might be that they just give us a very brief strapline, what they're looking to achieve, or it might be that they've got a very detailed proposal of what you're trying to achieve. So we've got a creative team that can come up with ideas, come up with solutions, and I know this is a bit about touch today. What you're going to see is that touch app isn't necessarily just WhatsApp, Facebook, something that you're familiar with. We can do so much more with touch. The technology that we use for touch, capacitive touch, infrared, all of these technologies can be combined together to do something that's a bit unique and special, and hopefully when we get to the stand you'll see those things. So three main purposes that we think about when we sit down and we think about producing a touch app. So generally the kind of space that we work in, the event space, that might be a permanent install, it might be an exhibition, it might be an event. There are three main things that we want to look at. The first one is attract, so we want to get people in. We want to make sure that we're showing them something interesting and that we've got something that's going to grab their attention, because in a space like this, it's noisy, it's bright, it's really hard to grab somebody's attention. So that's what we're trying to do. We want to grab them. When we've got them, we need to engage them. So it's not just about getting them on the stand, we need to be giving them something when they get there. So we've got their attention, now we're engaging them. They're learning about your brand, they're starting to get the message that you intentionally wanted to deliver, and we're doing this by telling a story. So we've got them, we're now engaging them. So the event's finished now, what did you get from it? That's where we're looking at insight. We want to give people insight. So you've paid for this app, you've paid for this touch app, what do you get from it? So we're going to talk a little bit about insight in the things that we look at today as well. So insight might be how many people came on your stand, how many people downloaded documents, how many people tapped on that screen, what were they tapping on? And then you can look at what time they tapped on it as well. So we're kind of giving analytics, and you can see there's a bit of a graph here on the right hand side. So we can collect all of this data and harvest this data, and then we can produce analytics that's easy to look at. How many leads did you collect? How many people were interested? Was that big client that you wanted to talk to, did they come to your stand? Did somebody grab their email address? What did they want to talk about? So we're gathering that information. Now you might notice on the bottom left of this screen here, I've got a little blue dot. Now this isn't actually a presentation I'm using here, this is a touch app that I'm using, and I'm kind of just tapping the screen, and at the moment it's a presentation. I just want to give you a demonstration of a touch app that we created for a company called PCMS. Now PCMS, if you've ever used a till at Marks and Spencer's, a self-checkout system, they produce that system. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a whole back end. It goes into their marketing department. If there's any kind of connections, buy one, get one free, they kind of figure out how they join all of those together. And they wanted to be able to tell a story of that. So if I click on this little blue dot now, you'll see this little user interface comes up. So I've got my presentation, but I want to do something different now. I want to talk about something. So I click the bottom section here. You can see I've got different choices. Now the POS system, that's their actual software. So I haven't got it built in here, but if I was to tap into that, that would bring up the front end of their system, and they could physically use their own software. And they can flick between that, go back to the presentation. Now I've actually built an app in here, so I've clicked on apps now. It's giving me access to all of my apps. Now it's just trying to get rid of that clunkiness. It's making it seamless. I can swap between one app to another presentation, and whilst I'm doing this, I'm harvesting all of this data as well. So I know now that I've gone into 2 presentations. I'm now going to open an app called Moog. So this is an app that we built for a company called Moog. Moog produce all sorts of components that go onto fighter planes, and that's the A380, I think. Now when we talked about Attract, this app allows you to manipulate the plane in a 3D space. So I can tap on this here. We produce these 3D assets. I can kind of rotate the plane so you can take a look at it, and then I can tap into these different areas. What we want to try and do when we're producing a touch app is move away from just giving people information that you can find from a document. You can pick up a PDF, you can pick up a brochure. We want to try and give them a bit more of a unique experience, something that's not just gathering that data. So for someone to rotate a plane and play with it, it just gives them something a little bit different to do. I can then go through all of the different options. I can go to a fighter jet and do the same thing with that. Now say for instance I wanted to go back to my presentation here, I can just click on presentations, go back to my presentation, and I'm straight back to where I was in my presentation. So you're just removing that clunky element from that. So spoke about the 3 things there. I want to go over to my stand now, hopefully, and Matt's going to be on there. He's got a few different interactives that we've got on the stand. Just think about how we're using touch differently when you're looking at these things. It's not just a straightforward touch app. We're using technology that's been around for years. You've all used it, but we're using it in a unique and different way, which means that you are going to grab people's attention. You're giving them something different that they don't get from a standard touch app. So if we can take the stream to the stand, please. Here he is, he's Matt, and Matt will talk you through a little bit of what we've got on the stand just at the end there.
Good afternoon all. So the first thing we've got on the stand is an iPad wiper wall. It's made of pixel bricks. So this is a series of iPads that are connected together to make a large LED wall. What we can do is take one of the iPads from the wall and it launches it into an app. We can then slide through and look at videos and lots of different things. Going back to what Adam said earlier, it's all about attract, engage, and insight. The attraction is the iPads. It's a collection of the iPads making a video wall. And then the engagement is being able to take the iPad from the wall and integrate with it, sorry. When we talk about touch apps, there's actually lots of different levels. And we've got things such as a recognition table. On the recognition table, what we've got are lots of different objects. So we can place it onto the table. And once we place it onto the table, we can then look at different. So we've got presentations, image galleries, videos. Again, this is a touch app, but it's using a different object to start the interaction. We'd like to have a look at all the different and we look forward to seeing you here. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm mindful the sound was cutting in and out a little bit there, so I'll just kind of talk you through those experiences a little bit more. So the iPad, the Pixel Bricks iPad wall that we have there, that is a touch app essentially, but what we've done is we've turned it into a video wall, and we've made the iPad seamless so that you can display a video on there. Now it might be that you've got a controller iPad and you can fire your own content onto there, so we're using touch now to move medium from one place to another. So I've got an iPad with a video, I can now fling it up into that wall, but I can physically ask somebody to go and take that video wall apart to grab it, and now they can use that. And then going back to the object recognition table, we've used standard touch screens that you guys have used time before, but we've now put an object on top of that. So when you put an object on, it knows what object you're placing on the screen, so you can go and have a go of that. And we can kind of have up to about 9 different objects on there, and it allows people to use a touch table in a bit more of a tangible way, so you can put your physical product on there. An example of that is we did a job for a company called Kemet. They've got tiny little components, electrical components, that you can't really tangibly look at. So they were embedded inside the objects, and when you put them on the table, it showed a blown up 3D version of it, so they could really kind of drill down into what it looked like. So we're just using standard technologies that have been around for years, but trying to think of different ways of doing them. Something that Matt didn't show you there, actually, I think he was having a bit of a problem with the sound, is that we also do augmented reality. Now, augmented reality can be used as a touch app, but you're giving somebody an extra level, you're giving them another dimension to work with as well. So you're not just looking at a flat 2D space, you're then using an app and you're looking at objects in a 3D space, and then you can tap into these objects. So that's giving people another dimension. And augmented reality is really bringing an extra level of detail and interactive to touch apps that we've not been able to do before. So yeah, there's pretty much some of the bits that we've done. It's just a few of the people that we've worked with, and a few of the kind of statistics based around working with them. So a lot of people have moved from using documents to using apps and using touch technology to communicate with people at their events and their stands. You can see there's a huge cost saving to be had in some instances, and then, I mean, look, 4.6 million pages delivered. You wouldn't necessarily know that unless you had analytics, unless you had that data. Harvesting that data of what your apps are doing is really important, because you can then look at these statistics later and you know exactly how people are using these apps and what they're using them for. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight as to what we can do with touch apps. There's so much more on the stand that you can come and have a look at, and you should be able to hear us when you're over there as well. But has anybody got any questions? I know Glissa said that they might fire some questions across. Okay, what kind of data can you capture from delegates using these apps? So the kind of data we can collect really depends on what data you want. So it might be how many people have walked into an area, it might be how many people have been asked to have something emailed, it might be analytics on the busiest times. So if you're staffing an event, when are the busiest times? When are more people coming and using these interactive elements? So we can kind of give lots of different graphs to show and support this. I think probably the most important data that people do get from using our apps is data capture. So we're enticing people to put their email addresses and put their personal details in, so we're harvesting that. And we do that in line with GDPR and data protection, so we're very mindful that these things need to be thought of as well and planned out. So yeah, and it could literally be anything. Because we build it bespoke, you can tell us what data you're trying to capture from people, where they're standing on the stand, how many people there are, and we can give you that data back. Anybody else got any questions, want to know about Touch Interactives? No? Okay, thank you.